The moment Aryna Sabalenka walked off Court 1 at Hard Rock Stadium after her quarterfinal victory over Hailey Baptiste, something was different. She had just won 6-3, 6-4, advancing to her 15th consecutive WTA quarterfinal, a streak not seen since Justine Henin nearly 2 decades ago. She was the defending champion, the world number 1, the woman who had just completed the Indian Wells Miami Sunshine Double and was chasing history. But when she sat down for her press conference, the smile that usually greeted reporters was gone. Her voice, usually booming with confidence, was quiet, measured, tired. "I feel like scheduling, it's too crazy," she admitted, her words carrying the weight of a season that had already taken everything from her. She spoke about the Dubai withdrawal controversy that had followed her for weeks, about the tournament director who had called her injury excuse. Aryna Sabalenka arrived at the Miami Open as the woman who had everything to prove and nothing to lose. She had just captured the biggest title of her career at Indian Wells, defeating Elena Rybakina in a 3-set thriller to claim her first title in the California desert. The victory was sweet, her first win over Rybakina in a final after 4 consecutive defeats, including one at the Australian Open earlier this year. She was riding an 8-match winning streak. She was the defending Miami champion, having beaten Jessica Pegula in the 2025 final. She was chasing history. Only 5 women had ever completed the Indian Wells Miami double, and she was 1 win away from joining Steffi Graf, Kim Clijsters, Victoria Azarenka, and Iga Swiatek in that exclusive club. But beneath the surface, something was cracking. The schedule that had made her the best player in the world was also breaking her. Sabalenka had spent the last 2 years playing everything, every Grand Slam, every WTA 1000, every tournament that demanded her presence. The WTA regulations mandate that top players must compete in all 4 majors, 10 WTA 1000 events, and 6 WTA 500 tournaments, with violations punishable through fines or ranking points penalties. There was no room to breathe, no space to heal, no time to just be human. Her first-round match at Miami against the seeds of Sabalenka's Miami collapse were planted weeks earlier in a controversy that erupted before she even arrived in Florida. In February, Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek both withdrew from the Dubai Tennis Championships, a WTA 1000 event that was supposed to be a key stop on the tour. Sabalenka cited a minor hip injury. Swiatek cited mental exhaustion. Both were within their rights. Both were prioritizing their health. But Dubai tournament director Salah Tahlak was not happy. It was an unfortunate surprise last night to get news of the withdrawal of Aryna and Iga, Tahlak told The National in mid-February. And the reasons for withdrawal were a bit strange. Iga said she wasn't mentally ready to compete, while Sabalenka said she has some minor injuries. "I think there should be a harsher punishment on the players for withdrawing, not just fines. They should be docked ranking points." The comments were explosive. Tahlak even questioned Sabalenka's injury directly. "I even asked the tournament doctor, what is the injury? He said it's a minor injury, not one that would force her to withdraw from the tournament." For Sabalenka, who had spent years playing through pain, who had built her career on showing up even when her body was breaking, the accusation cut deep. When she arrived at the Miami Open, reporters were waiting. They asked about Tahlak's comments, and Sabalenka, usually so controlled, let the mask slip. "I'm not sure if I ever want to go back there after his comment. For me, it's too much," she said, her voice tight. "I think it's ridiculous. I don't think he showed himself in the best way possible. For me, it's actually so sad to see that the tournament directors and the tournaments are not protecting us as players. They just care about their sales, about their tournament, and that's it." She went further, explaining the decision that had led to her withdrawal. "I feel like scheduling, it's too crazy," she said. "Last year I was trying to play everything I could, and honestly at some point I wasn't in the best state of mind.
And going into this season, we decided we're going to prioritize my health and make sure that we have these little gaps in the schedule where I can just reset, recharge, and
On paper, Aryna Sabalenka's Miami Open run was a success. She reached the quarterfinals, she extended her winning streak to 11 matches, she remained the world #1. But those who watched her play saw something else. In her opening match against Ann Lee, she dropped the first set after leading 4-1, letting 7 break points slip away. She won in 2 sets, but the effort was visible. Against Katie McNally, she looked sharper, but the wear was still there. Against Zhang Qinwen, she won 6-3, 6-4, but the Chinese star produced moments of brilliance that forced Sabalenka to dig deeper than she should have needed to. The quarterfinal against Hailey Baptiste was the breaking point. Sabalenka dropped the first set, her first of the tournament. She rallied to win, but the match went 3 sets, and when it was over, she looked exhausted. Not the kind of exhaustion that comes from a hard-fought match, but the kind that comes from a season that has already taken too much. After the match, she didn't celebrate. She walked off the court with her head down, her team rushing to her side. The cameras caught her shaking her head, muttering something to her coach. She had won, but it felt like a loss. The next day, the WTA announced something unprecedented. Sabalenka would be granted a temporary break from the tour. She would skip the upcoming clay events in Madrid and Rome, returning only for Roland Garros. The decision, according to sources, was made jointly by her team and WTA officials, who had been monitoring. The decision to grant Sabalenka a temporary rest represented a dramatic shift for the WTA, an organization that had spent years enforcing mandatory participation rules with fines and ranking penalties. The irony was not lost on observers. Just weeks earlier, Dubai tournament director Salah Tahlak had called for players to be docked ranking points for withdrawing from mandatory events. Now, the WTA was doing the opposite, not punishing a player for stepping back, but supporting her. Sabalenka's comments about the schedule had clearly resonated. When she spoke about the crazy demands of the tour, about the need to reset and recharge, she was giving voice to a frustration that had been building among players for years. Iga Swiatek had called the schedule a madness back in September. Other players had spoken privately about the toll of constant travel, of playing through injury, of being expected to perform at their peak week after week, month after month. The WTA's response was carefully worded but unmistakable. Athlete welfare is and will always remain a top priority for the WTA, a spokesperson said in January. We listen and engage closely with players on all matters relating to the tennis season, including through the WTA Players Council and player representatives on the WTA board. But the real shift was happening behind closed doors. The formation of the Tour Architecture Council, announced earlier in the year, was tasked with reviewing the structure of the season and making recommendations for the 2027 calendar. The goal was to create more flexibility, more rest periods, more opportunities for players to manage their health without fear of punishment. When news of Sabalenka's break broke, social media exploded. Fans divided into camps, those who supported the decision, those who questioned it, and those who worried about what it meant for the sport. "I'm shocked," one fan wrote. "The world #1 is stepping away in the middle of the season? What does that say about the state of tennis?" Others were more supportive. "Good for her," another posted. "Players are human beings, not machines. The schedule has been insane for years. It's about time someone spoke up." Some skeptics pointed to the timing. Sabalenka had just won Indian Wells. She was the defending champion in Miami. Was this really about health, or was she protecting her ranking, avoiding the points she might lose on clay? But those who had watched her play knew the truth. The Sabalenka who limped through the Miami quarterfinals was not the same player who had dominated the tour for the past 2 years. The fire was there, but the fuel was running out. "I feel like scheduling, it's too crazy," she had said.
Those weren't the words of a player looking for an excuse. They were the words of someone who had reached her limit. As the news spread, other players began speaking out. Jessica Pegula, who had faced Sabalenka in the 2025 Miami final, offered her support. "I think it's brave," she told reporters. "It's hard to admit that you need a break, especially when you're number one, but we're all human. We all need to recharge." Coco Gauff, who had dealt with her own injury struggles at Indian Wells.
Sabalenka's temporary rest is a landmark moment in the history of the WTA. For years, the organization has enforced mandatory participation rules with fines and ranking penalties, prioritizing the needs of tournaments over the health of players. Now, for the first time, they have chosen to support a player who said she needed a break. The implications are profound. If the world number one can step away in the middle of the season without punishment, what does that mean for the rest of the tour? Will more players follow her lead? Will the WTA be forced to permanently restructure the calendar? The answers are uncertain, but one thing is clear. The conversation about athlete welfare in tennis has changed forever. Sabalenka's decision to speak out, to name the crazy schedule, to admit that she was prioritizing her health over competition, to risk the criticism that had followed her since Dubai, has opened a door that can't be closed. Players who were silent before now have permission to speak. Tournament directors who prioritized profits over players now have to reckon with a new reality. The clay season will begin without its biggest star. Madrid and Rome will go on. Roland Garros will wait. And when Sabalenka returns, she will be rested, recharged, and ready to compete for the one title that has eluded her. But her absence will be felt, not just in the tournament she skips, but in the conversations that continue in her wake.
Aryna Sabalenka's Miami Open run ended not with a loss, but with something far more significant, a realization. The world number one, the defending champion, the woman chasing history, had reached her limit. The schedule that had made her the best player in the world was also breaking her. Her withdrawal from Dubai had sparked a firestorm of criticism, with tournament director Salah Tahlak calling for harsher punishments and questioning her injury narrative. Her comments at Miami about the crazy schedule, about prioritizing health, about needing to reset and recharge were a direct response. And when the WTA granted her a temporary rest, skipping Madrid and Rome to return only for Roland Garros, the tennis world was stunned. For the first time, the organization had chosen to support a player who said she needed a break, rather than punish her for it. Sabalenka's collapse wasn't a failure, it was a wake-up call. For the WTA, for tournament directors, for everyone who has watched the schedule get longer, the demands get heavier, and the players get quieter about the toll it takes. She spoke up, and in doing so, she changed the conversation about what it means to be the best in the world. Was the WTA right to grant Sabalenka a break?